why I'm going to record this session. But yeah, so there's 4 of us that have various expertise as far as technology things, live streaming, pre-recording, sound systems, audio, etc. And we will open it up for questions. So if any brave soul wants to go first, by all means.
Yeah, I'll start with a question. So our church, broad church of 350 people. We've only been having about 100 people in the church building for the last few months since we opened it about in August. But 2 weeks ago, we decided to close the building due to increased numbers in Alberta again. So we're just doing online, but our worship teams, worship music teams have still been recording stuff live from the sanctuary, and their pastor as well from the pulpits in the sanctuary. We before had been doing Zoom. This past Sunday we tried to go to YouTube live with some serious complications. The sound was quite muffled. We think that was most likely due to the poor internet connection. So we just recently, well actually as of tomorrow, we're going to upgrade our internet to the fastest available that TELUS, the provider here, offers. And we're hoping that is going to solve our problem. Wondering if anybody else had a similar issue in their church.
The closest we had originally started back way back when this first started. I did through an iPhone and an iRig hooked directly to the soundboard, so it was running through my cellular network, which is very strong at our church actually. And then from there we went, the next week was when we completely shut. Our pastor went to the online through his computer, and that was okay. It had some audio qualities due to not being an actual microphone. When we came back, we were outside, so we went back to the cell phone. And then from there, we actually went back indoors when it started getting cold here. And we've had a little bit with the audio issues, sounding kind of like a humming in the background. And that's for a lot of people who know audio and power don't mix. While they're all coming in through the same port, because MacBook only has 2 USB-C. So I actually got a different device now and have kind of kept the cords separated, and that seems to have helped the buzzing and the muffled. You just got to dial it back a little bit. But we're through Facebook, so once you actually post to the Facebook, the sound actually does amplify louder than on your live recording. When you go to playback, it's actually louder.
Ryan, are you guys looking, since your building is completely closed, so there's 2 ways, right? One would be to pre-record and post and then make available for people. The other is to live stream. We did not move to live stream until we had to, absolutely had to, that we were running concurrently, remote and in person, for the reasons in part that you mentioned here. So I guess my question is, live stream is always dependent on internet. Uploading a video is, but that can happen on Wednesday or Thursday or Friday or Saturday. Is there a reason that you are feeling like you are wanting to do the live stream in real time on Sunday morning as opposed to, and this isn't a right or wrong answer, I'm just wondering, because when you have glitches in real time on a live stream, they're in real time and there's not a whole lot you can do about it.
Yeah, exactly. So let you know my position in the church. I am one of the 5 sound guys, and I also lead music worship, which I'm leading this Sunday. So I hope that it goes a little better than what it did last Sunday. But our reasoning, I don't think our pastors really had a reason why they wanted to do it live, but we've always done it live. We haven't pre-recorded the sermons, at least. When the pandemic started, we did pre-record music at home. Anybody that is able to record it just with their family in their own home, and they would send it in, record it with their phone and send it in, and they patched it into the service. But the sermon was still live. So that's something we've never done, is record the actual pastor preaching his sermon and patch it in. But that is definitely something we're talking about doing for this Sunday. I'm not sure if our pastor is going to do it live or not. He was kind of on the fence to 50-50, but I agree that if we do pre-record it, it's going to be a lot better quality, and we don't have to worry about those glitches in midstream when we're going live. You can't really solve those problems when you're going live. So
Right. And if you're going live on YouTube, you're talking about maybe a 12-second latency. Is that a whole lot different than 12 hours with a pre-recorded service? I don't know, in terms of concurrent, but.
yeah, that was our only really concern, right? If you do a congregational prayer, it's nice to have it an actual up-to-date prayer compared to a couple-day-old prayer, which isn't quite the same. But maybe that's one thing we could put in there live is the congregation prayer, or the welcome. That's what my suggestion was to our pastor, but we'll see what we decide.
Hey Ryan, are you guys using the microphone or that's built in the iPhone camera?
For when we record this Sunday, we're actually going to record it tonight though, the music, and my wife's got a brand new Samsung phone, so we'll be using that Samsung 20. So yeah, it'll be the video and the audio recorded with that phone, and we're going to try that.
What we've actually went and did is we went and ordered off of Amazon. They make these pretty affordable belt packs that plug in to the phones that the pastor can either wear or you can put up by the pulpit.
Okay.
And like what I've even done now is I have one where it's got one receiver and two receivers and one that plugs into the actual phone, and then two microphones. So what I've done is I put one up by the pulpit and I put one down by like the speakers where the music plays.
Yeah.
Brian mentioned this. This is an iRig, $40. This plugs into your headphone microphone jack on your camera, on your cell phone. This is an XLR that can take a mix right out of your soundboard. For $40, you can do this, and then you can mix your house just like normal, but send your main to this instead.
Or send it as an auxiliary too, is what we did.
So
I still need my mains.
Right, because you're doing concurrent. But if you don't have anybody in the building, and you can just mix off your main for right now. But for $40, we use this for 12 weeks, and it worked like shockingly well.
Yeah.
I would go back to that in a minute if I hadn't got this little bit bigger device.
Yeah. This is like, and again, for $40.
And I think and if you go a little bit more on that, the newer one, which is what I got the HD version that actually has the lightning for the iPhone or USB-C for your normal. So obviously, depending on what phone you have is what iRig you're going to look at getting.
Yeah.
But it's a pretty snazzy little thing for what you pay for it. And again, if you're not running concurrently, you just take your house main right into there, and all you have to do now is set your gain level, and you're pretty much good to go.
So yeah, right now our drum kit's not mic'd. So for this Sunday, we were just gonna do more of an acoustic types recording and do no microphones at all and just try to record the sound with the phone and see how that works. But we do have the capability to plug everything in as well and go through the whole soundboard. I think we're going to try both of them and see which ended up being a little bit better. But with your guys' experience, you say that going through the soundboard is quite a bit better overall?
Use per mic, instruments, and that kind of thing. And if you're looking for just a simplistic, you want to put something on the kit, do two overheads, do one that kind of falls between your snare and the bass, and it covers the cymbal as well. I've done audio outside of church for it's a concert all day in Muskegon. We do acoustic sets strictly. So it's like you got a guitar, you got a 3-piece drum kit, maybe a keyboard, that's it. So you only need like 3-4 tops mics for a drum kit that way.
Okay, just one mic you're saying in between the snare and the bass?
the snare and the bass are so close to each other. If you kind of aim the mic right center of the two, it will pick up the pedal from the kick and the hit from the snare, but it also will get a little bit of those hi-hat in that. Because the only mic I have on our kit at my church, I have that one single mic, and that's pretty much what I mic the whole drum kit as.
And it picks up the toms as well, the floor tom and the other toms?
The toms, not so much, but I wasn't originally going to mic drums. This was more of a afterthought, because when I'm performing, I have an in-ear piece that I wear personally. So I like to have the beat in my ears. So I was looking for more of, I want to feel the kind of beat behind it, because he drives the band.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm a drummer too, so.
So far it's worked on our live streams.
Yeah.
You know, Ryan, another thing I don't think is unfair of you to ask is just maybe you just simplify and keep things acoustic from a musical perspective for several weeks. I don't think that's unreasonable. And I think, you know, you do the highest level of what you can do well. And right now, if that's someone sitting at a piano, but that's what allows your people to hear clearly and participate, I don't think that's an unreasonable request for you guys to ease into it also.
Yeah, so like what we've been doing for the last number of weeks, well, we actually had a small amount of people in the last number of months, actually. We've had about 100 people in the church building in the sanctuary. And as far as actually sending our Zoom feed out, we've been recording it just with ceiling mics in the middle of the sanctuary, so we could actually hear the whole congregation singing, as well as sort of hear the actual music leaders. But to hear the music leaders was actually really terrible quality, and everybody's getting quite upset with the quality, and it's kind of a waste of the music leaders' time, especially if there's nobody in the building as well. If you can't really hear them and it's a terrible sound quality, we got to figure something out. So I've had a number of chats over the last few weeks with a whole bunch of our pastors and musicians, and trying to figure out the best way. So hopefully this Sunday it goes a little smoother. But
now, do you have Matrix out on your board at all?
I don't think so.
Instead of your regular auxiliary? Because what I did, I had to crank, we have the congregational mic'd as well, but just so it's not feeding over my mains, I had to send that through one input. The preachers are on another, and then all the band is through another, so I can kind of tweak each subgroup into the mix for online separate. And that's helped with some of the like differential and the noise between the groups.
Yeah, I think one of our main issues right now is Zoom. Zoom with audio is absolutely terrible, and it really is frustrating. Anytime the volume, the input or the output volume is too high, then Zoom kind of just shuts down altogether, and nobody hears anything at all. So what I was trying to do 2 Sundays ago was have a combination of the entire congregation and then just turn up the lead singer so we could just hear his voice clearly. But then obviously there's too much audio going through Zoom and everything shut down. And everybody's like, where's the audio? We can't hear anything. I was like, I'm sorry, I was trying something, trying to make it sound better, and it made it worse.
So I led some chapels for my kids' schools remotely last spring. I was running 4 different soundboards. I was direct into my computer. I could not get audio to ever sound good over Zoom, ever. Yeah. So I think that platform, if Zoom is what you're using, is not helping you either.
No, that's one of our main issues. So we're going to switch over to YouTube Live as soon as we can. But whether we need to actually pre-record it and just post the video on YouTube, I think that might be our best option for next Sunday. For sure, we'll look at doing that if we have considerable issues this week.
Daryl or Diane, do either of you have?
I do have a question. That's why I came. Thanks for letting me come on. The sound quality, though, is a big one. I know our church has gone from, we did recorded sessions last spring and all the way into the middle of July. And those were really good. But then we lost our tech guy who did all that stuff. And so we were live, though. I mean, we were in person, I should say, middle of July until about 3 weeks ago. when we came back inside. And then our council decided to go with the live stream because, we just don't have the capacity to record things ahead of time. And you just give up some quality and with a live stream because it's just what it is. And it's just us, and I'm a musician. I play the piano, so I'm down on the I'm on that a lot. But when I'm not there, quite often I'm facilitating the live stream, and that's my question. We do a live stream through our website and through YouTube, which really I guess works pretty good. So I don't do the sound, but I'm wondering how do you encourage community with, just totally a virtual church meeting? I just struggle with that so much because, I ask for prayer requests and we ask people to, to say hello, and some of our people do on the chat. They use the chat function. But really when you're, I find myself when I'm home and I'm not involved in the worship service too, I find myself just really being detached, from what's going on. Even though I love worship, it's still, just watching, and it's different. It's just so different. So how can you, or how do you, is there any way that you invite people to participate as you're going? Is there any way I can get people involved and active in worship when we're all sitting in our own houses?
One of the things that I think is really helpful in engaging an online audience in a virtual worship experience is to encourage people to check in, as we would perhaps in the passing of the peace in our liturgy. Maybe at that point in your service, you can encourage folks to chime in on the chat if you're using a platform that allows that they could say, hello, we're viewing from wherever. Something that we've done is invited people to say, just giving them moments to pause so that it doesn't feel so much like a service, but it feels more like a time of connection. And all of us are dealing with this socially distanced virtual kind of world that we're having to live in right now. But I think that our programmatic brain wants to make it flow as if it was a worship service, and we can still have those elements. But one of the things that has helped is realizing that there's room for pausing, which creates margin for people to engage a little bit more. So something that we've done in our worship recordings has been like, hey, why don't you take some time and let us know where you're watching, what's going on with you, and talk to us as the service is happening, which creates an opportunity for people to engage more and not feel like they're only watching, but they're also able to engage in the service that's taking place right before them. And then something else that's just a natural part of that rhythm is realizing, like you said, it is different. It's so different. It's different for all of us. It doesn't feel the same to not be in the same room with folks engaging in a worship encounter, but at the same time, we are engaging our hearts. We're just spread out a little bit more. So I think some of that rhythm takes practice. And at first, people might be like, oh, I'm not comfortable, doing that. There's all types of thoughts that they might have in the back of their mind. I don't want to talk during church, or I don't want to, be a distraction. I've heard those things, but at the same time, realizing digital communication is different than us sitting in a room together. And the more that we can engage and encourage that engagement from those that are, being seen on the screen, I think it helps those on the other side that are watching to engage a little bit more and to feel like they're actually a part of and connected to what's happening.
That's a good word, Jeremy. And I think two other things. One is we've all worked from home and felt how different that feels when you don't get up and shower and get your clothes on, when you just go right to your computer in your pajama pants. I think so. It starts.
I still shower.
You're one up on me some days then. So when it starts in the preparation. And so I think that there's a certain amount of theological training. So one of the things, we were late to move to live stream because we felt like it was going to be so passive for people who were at home. And so when we pre-recorded, like we would, as the service started, we would ask people to, before you begin worship this morning, get a bowl and fill it with water, dip your hands in, remember that through the waters of baptism, we are united even though we're apart. So like helping people create or curate a worship space, some sort of reverence. So it's not just my living room now, but this is a different place for something that's going to happen. So that was part of it. The other thing that we try to be really careful of is anytime we're leading from the stage, we're giving people on the other side of a TV opportunity to check out. So we, like our congregational prayers and our prayers of confession and some of the words of assurance, we didn't speak them anymore. We gave prompts on the screen, and we would ask them to pray together as a family in their home based on those prompts. Or we would ask them to speak these words from the book of John together as their words of assurance. My boys started fighting over who got to pray for which prayer prompt during the congregational prayer as we're sitting in our living room. And so to the point, we actually took that back now, and now we have families helping lead our congregational prayer in service the same way they were doing in their own homes. So anytime I found myself talking on stage, I realized that somebody could be putting their foot recliner up and taking a sip of coffee. And so we tried to put as many worship actions back into people's living rooms as we could.
Yeah, that's really good. Thanks. Jeremy, what kind of, when you pause, I like that idea too. What kind of questions would you ask or instructions would you give to the people for the,
for those moments? So it might be something like going along with what Anthony said. We've done something similar with communion. So we invite them to get their elements before, and just say, hey, this is what's happening this week. It's Communion Sunday. We're going to be celebrating the Lord's Supper together. Gather your stuff. And then while you're doing that, we might include some invitation to just literally natural conversation. So oftentimes we'll have a cell phone open, like my iPhone will be open while we're live or premiering, and we'll literally engage. So when it comes time to greet, we'll be like, hey, Diane, how you doing this morning? Or we'll type in and just make it more conversational, which I think it kind of creates this this perspective that it's just reality of what we're living in, but also it removes that kind of barrier of I'm here and I'm the pastor and you are the congregation, but we're in this together. I'm experiencing this worship experience virtually just as you are, and so I'll just throw out different things to them. I'll ask questions. How's it going? How's your holiday? An idea during Advent is, what are you guys kind of celebrating over these next 3 weeks as we look forward to Christmas Eve? What's happening in your families? Just different things that provide opportunity for conversation. And then we'll normally just tell people, hey, let us know your answers and responses while they're happening, and we'll keep that stuff open and active throughout that time. Sometimes as we're preparing for different prayers or worship moments, the invitation that I've been using over the past few weeks has just been simple to say, in the midst of all this, we feel isolated. In the midst of this, we feel as if we're not together or wondering how and when we'll be together again. But God is with us in this. He's there. He's present. And even as we're joined together, on a Facebook Live platform or YouTube or Zoom, whatever your platform is that you're using, the same God that's here in this space is the same God that is there. And I think just some of those reminders are helpful, because isn't it natural that when we get in front of a computer, we go into a mode, don't we? We go into this mode of like, I gotta do this thing, or I gotta make sure that my camera is on, or I've got to do all this stuff. And we have to do that for work. We have to do it now for school. We have to do it for all these meetings that we have. And now we have to connect that way for church. But it is refreshing to be able to have that permission to engage in this new realm in a real way, and realize that all of us are experiencing it. But we can experience it together, and we can still have fun with it, even though we're not in the same place. And it kind of just lifts that stuffy feeling like this isn't a boring old church service. Not that anybody's having boring old church services, but it kind of removes that.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that. And I think the best service I experienced at home while worshiping virtually was the communion service that we had, where we were encouraged, where we actually did have the bread and the juice, and we all took it together but it was active, and it was so good. And I think that was the best service. So to find ways to encourage that. And I appreciate you too, Anthony, where you said, at any moment, everybody, you're putting up your feet in the chair and you're getting coffee, or you're doing this or that. Yeah.
And to add to that, I think that there's a stigma that we have associated with that idea, because in my mind, and I serve in campus ministry, but I say, you know, invite your friends, get your coffee, get your breakfast, get your lunch, whatever. Join the conversation and jump on in. So something that we'll do, for example, in my house, our TV is, you know, mounted to the wall, and we'll turn on the Bose and just open up, you know, Facebook Watch or YouTube app, and we'll just stream it there and let people gather around and engage in what's happening. And what I found is that it creates a more open atmosphere and a more inviting atmosphere for people to say, okay, I have this opportunity to access what's happening, and I can be with, you know, the body that is both gathered and sent at the same time.
And we started doing, we would open up a Zoom room about 10 minutes prior to the service, just a place for space for people to come and to offer prayer requests. And then when we would get to the time in the service where there would be prayer, we can incorporate and we can have heard those requests to be able to include those. So we had a Zoom room 10 minutes prior to the service, and then Zoom coffee hour immediately following into breakout rooms. And so there's an element of connection on both sides of the service that makes it just feel a little more communal. I was on a Zoom call with someone the other day who said they have members in their church who have started sourdough baking, doing like sourdough bread. And so they started handing out starters to everybody in the congregation so that everybody was making bread on Communion Sunday off of the same starter. But that's cool. That would be a fun one. I'm going to jump to Daryl because Daryl is waiting. Daryl is waiting patiently.
Yeah, our church kind of we've never done the Zoom thing. We've always did, like, I know when the whole pandemic thing kind of started here in California, we did like the pre-recorded, and we did that for several months, and then we kind of shifted gears and went to a pre-recorded thing, and then we started preaching outside because we kind of inherited an old FM transmitter. So we were kind of like a old drive-in theater, but church style. So we kind of had that set up. I think the banner just did we had a short little snippet in the banner. And we've been doing that for, I think, like the last 5 months. And it just, you know, it's nice to be able to, where you didn't get to see anybody for several months, you know, especially on pre-recordeds, to finally, when you're kind of there at church and you start seeing cars pull back and you start seeing familiar faces again, you know, and starting to see people. And then they start, you know, lifting some of the things up where we could have 25% capacity back in the church. But even at that point, when we did that, we still didn't stop the FM transmitter. We kind of left that still going for the people that didn't feel comfortable coming in. So we kind of still have the platform of, we still pre-record for people that don't feel comfortable at all coming to church. We have the FM transmitter for people that don't feel comfortable coming inside. We have a speaker set up outside for people that, if they want to bring lawn chairs and just sit out in the grass in the shade, or the 25% of the people that want to come in and listen, you know. So I think, you know, we've kind of got a good mix of covering all bases and grounds. And Mike down here at the bottom, Mr. Fuentes, he's the leader of the pack. I'm the guy that runs the audio for him.
The blind leader.
Mike or Daryl, do either of you have any questions about what you guys are working with right now?
You know, first of all, thanks you guys for the invite. Both Darren and I are hoping to learn a lot, because we're not a large church, although our church has been together since the 60s. And So over the years, because we don't have a really great budget, I mean, the Lord's provided for us. And so to get the church into current technology, it's been in the works for about 10 years now. And so Daryl and I kind of like putting the fires out, so to speak. Both of us, you know, been learning along the ways. So I think what we're trying to find out is what kind of technology we're using. Ours is a little different because we kind of jumped into this thing, and Daryl probably talked about it earlier. We went into the having the services online. Then we went to a parking lot service outdoors. And then we went inside, which is currently what we're doing now. So we have people inside, people outside, with a combination of different types of devices. So, you know, we ran the gamut of the FM signal to partial live on the Facebook, to recording it, you know, for our online service, pre-recorded. And so we're juggling a lot of technology. And so it's been a learning process for both of us. A lot of research, and we keep, the problem is there's so much out there, and you guys probably know this too. And with a limited budget, you know, a lot of our wish list has been not coming to fruition. So we do what we can. And, you know, so it's every week's a challenge, an adventure, so to speak, let alone trying to run worship. I don't know how many people here are worship leaders, but trying to keep our team together, you know, pointing to Christ first with all the madness. And, but we're very blessed to have a lot of musicians and singers that are consistent with us. And so, you know, that's another facet of the whole challenge of worship on Sunday. So looking for a lot of new ideas. This thing's, you know, it's dynamic, and, you know, we all have a hand in it. It's not obviously in normal circumstances, but I was looking at my devotion this morning, and, you know, in 2 Timothy, I believe it was, preaching in season, out of season. So I think on the bottom, and all of us have a reason of why we're doing this, is to keep the church moving forward, despite our difficult, you know, circumstances now. Anyway, I'll be quiet. Let you guys talk.
Oh, thanks for sharing with us, Mike. Angela submitted a question earlier. Angela, I don't know if you want to chime in and ask your question. Go ahead.
Great, thank you. Thanks for putting this together and for having something available to us to be able to chat about these trying times and this all this new technology and everything going on. Our church, we kind of just jumped right into live streaming. We contacted a company, they came out, they had set up a couple other previous churches a while ago, so we knew that they were a good company to work with. So we got we spent the money and jumped right into the full live streaming. The problem I'm running into is that, of course, like a lot of you, we're all volunteers in our church. So all of the people that are running all of the parts are volunteers. So we want to make it as streamlined and as easy as possible. What we've got going right now is I don't know what the guy called it. It was a live streaming device. It's just a little box hooked up to the cameras and so on. And then from there, of course, it goes to wherever you want to upload it to. So in our case, we have it uploading to Vimeo. What I'm running into, though, is that if I have a reoccurring Vimeo event, live stream event, fantastic. I don't have to touch anything. Everything stays the same. And every Sunday at 9:45, my live stream event is available for us to start streaming to. But as soon as I have a Christmas Day service or a New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, we do all of those. So then I have to change a whole bunch of settings and everything every time between that and our streaming box and Vimeo and our church website. I would like, right now we have our church website. I want people to be able to click on one link and have it bring them to the live stream without me needing to redo that link every time I have a different kind of service. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, so I saw your question earlier, and so I just poked around on Vimeo a little bit. The one thing I noticed is if you go into the settings and then go into the profiles section, under your settings, way at the bottom, you can set up a unique Vimeo URL. So it's vimeo.com/whatever.
Right.
And that will bring them directly to your profile. Now, when you click on that profile, though, it did not show, at least on my side, it did not show the newest video. Oh, I lied. We haven't been using Vimeo. Try that. That may be what you're looking for. And it may, I haven't done the Vimeo live. Is there a reason that you're doing Vimeo as opposed to something like YouTube? Because I know Vimeo, you need the Plus subscription, right? Which is like $60 a month.
Yes, yeah. I don't want to get into copyright stuff, but our live praise teams are not comfortable leading worship in singing yet. And in our church, we're not singing. So it's only videos. And if you throw a YouTube video up, they
Enough
block.
said. Okay. So I would try that. I would go into the settings and go into the profile, set up a custom URL for your church's name, and try setting that as the link from your website and see if when you go live, if it populates it there on your profile.
That would be fantastic.
I would try that first. If that doesn't work, I don't know.
No, even that's great. It's just, you know, you get overwhelmed with all of the different technology, and I'm fairly techie, but you know, once you've got live streaming and your website and all of this stuff all kind of jumping in all at the same time, it's like, I don't know where to look anymore. So thank you very much.
I think Ryan's got another question. We'll go back to Ryan.
Yeah, so Ryan from Edmonton, Alberta again. We chatted about different microphones and things like that. So just wondering if there's a recommendation for a new video camera. Our video camera right now is fixed on the back wall of our church. So it's about, I don't know, maybe 100 feet or so from the stage. And right now it's with a joystick. We can control with a joystick, which that works fine, but the quality is very poor. It's very pixely. We need to get a new camera in there ASAP. Just wondering what the recommendation would be for a new camera. And we could also do multiple cameras, different angles, because we do have that capability. Right now we just have one camera, but it would be nice, I think, to have possibly a couple fixed locations, one on the musicians, one on the pulpit, maybe one on the baptismal font, or the another table, the communion table. But for sure 2 different cameras, but one of them possibly that we could move around, and one of them could be fixed up in the ceiling shooting down on the musicians. So that recommendation for camera, as well as recommendation for a mic for the drum kit.
I am a little not sure what fully my production company uses. I know with the underneath the drum, the one I was saying goes between the snare and the kick, is the SM57. It uses the 48 volt pickup. That way it has a little more oomph behind it. And then I've also heard of where people will use the pair of those also for the 2 that you hang over the top. The thing you do gotta be a little careful on is, depending, I don't know if your drums are in a cage or if they're out of a cage. Ours are out of a cage by the piano. So I gotta be a little careful. Again, that's where I went with the single under for now until we can get that cage, and then I'll drop a couple over top of his cage, because when I do the event during the summer, the drums are a whole separate riser compared to like the guitars in the front or the basses to the side. So there I have a little more flexibility as far as that, but SM57 for that part has seemed to have served us pretty good.
Okay, thank you. And yeah, we don't have it caged in yet with plexiglass, but that's something we're considering as well. But do you recommend doing that if we're going to be miking up the drum kit? That's the best way because we are relatively close to the piano.
If you were looking for a full kit mic with 3 mics, I would plexiglass that in, because then you can kind of center those 2 mics over the top of the plexi, and then the plexi will keep everything else from coming into them that you don't want.
Yeah.
The bass is to the other side of it, so I got things on both sides.
Now, Ryan, you said that you have capability to do multiple cameras and multiple angles. You mean capability within your live stream encoder or your camera switcher?
Our camera switcher. I can't remember what the board, that actual box is called, but it can take up to, I think up to like 8 different camera feeds coming in that we can mix from one to another.
And does your joystick, so you have a pan tilt zoom camera up on the back that's, you said you can control with a joystick?
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure the name of it. I know it's a Sony, but yeah, with a joystick, it's controllable.
Does that joystick have multiple, can you daisy chain that you can control multiple cameras with the same joystick?
Not that I know of, but I have not looked into that.
So that PTZ, there's a couple different Visca and Pelco protocols that those run on. We had the same thing. We had probably 12-year-old pan tilt zoom cameras with a joystick, and I was able to just replace the cameras with like a web conferencing camera, pan tilt zoom camera, that, you know, is 5,000 more megapixels, 5,000 times more megapixels than the 10-year-old camera had. But I was able to just do a direct swap. Power supply, cabling, all of that stuff still worked from the controller. So it's possible that you could just get a one-to-one replacement for that camera and start there. Moving beyond to multiple cameras, you're talking about running cabling, right?
Yeah.
'Cause you'll need some way to do that, which is fine. But then some of those protocols, there's a patch cord, and it has to be reversed from one end to the other if you're going to daisy chain them. So I think to just replace what you have, you may be able to get away with a one-to-one replacement for an upgrade for the single camera, and then obviously adding more is just a different ballgame. You might need a new controller, and then whatever that cabling is.
Right. I wouldn't think we need to have the joystick to be able to control any of the other cameras, just the one in the back of the church. The other ones could just be fixed.
Fixed? Okay.
Yeah.
Then it's just your cable for your video feed to get back to the board, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we're on, I don't even know actually what cable we're using. I know we're not using HDMI for the camera right now, but that's probably the best way to go. Is HDMI is the best.
Does your switcher take HDMI?
Yeah.
Then just get some HDMI over CAT extenders and run that way. Yeah,
I think it takes coax as well as component and HDMI.
Okay.
The switcher does.
I was gonna say, because if your switcher takes the SDI, that's actually preferred over the HDMI if you can do that.
Okay, for better picture quality.
SDI every time, because I got friends that are in the professional video industry. Everything's SDI.
Okay.
And it's usually heavier duty, so. And I actually ran SDI out of I have a HDMI converter, because we do a mask room at our church, because the main sanctuary is not mask required. So we have a safe room off to the side. And I had to do a 100-foot run of the SDI, which you can't do very well over HDMI. So I converted it to that just for the lengthwise. And that seems to be really clear because our cameras are HD. So it's very good quality over that.
Okay, and for camera options to shoot from about 100 feet away, what would just any camera? Is there a certain kind of camera?
If it's within your budget, because they were trying to point me, and this is not in my budget, but to an actual camera that goes right out to the SDI. but those are starting to look pretty pricey. So I got a, I think it was a 4K HD camera, just a basic one off Amazon, and that's my main pulpit one. And then I have a second one that kind of does an overall, like a band shot of our front end.
Ryan, if you're going to run video cable to a new location for a new camera anyway, would it be possible to put your pan tilt zoom camera closer to the front where you would put one of the fixed ones instead? If you're running cable there anyway, maybe you just want to run controller cable and get yourself a lot closer. Then you could probably spend a lot less money on that PTZ camera if you don't need to be able to zoom 100 feet.
Yeah, that should be an option. We just be kind of shooting down. It'd be angled down quite a bit, but
right. Just a thought.
Yeah. So for cameras that actually move around, that tilt or whatever you call it, those ones are quite a bit more expensive that you can move around.
Yes, but not as much as you would think. I think we got a pretty decent one for $600 or $700. I know that's not pennies. $600 or $700 was.
No, that's fine.
A pretty decent one. So.
Yeah, I think we're looking up in the 2,000 range. If whatever needs to happen to get this job done, we need a better quality picture.
I would think you can find that for sure.
Oh yeah, because that's what we were, the 2000 and 1000, that's what we were looking for, the SDI cameras when we were looking at that, because those are controllable over your switchers too, a lot of them now.
Okay, yeah, if we can just get one really good quality camera, put it at the back of the church, and if we can zoom in for a good picture, then that's the best way to go, I think. Is that?
If you want suggestions of things you can look up later, the industry friends were telling me Black Magic.
Yeah, we do use Black Magic actually.
And all their stuff talks together. He said generally, as long as it's Black Magic and Black Magic, you're not going to have too much of a problem. But that's the high quality, like SDI is going to be mainly what those run.
Okay. Yes, I don't know all the stuff. I was the one that actually set it up. Yeah, I was just kind of jumping in on this call just to get some information. I'm not the first guy in charge of all this stuff either, so I don't even know what the Black Magic is good for, what it does, but I know we do have it, and it's going into our soundboard, and sometimes it's working, sometimes it's not. Sometimes we need to change the audio inputs just because we got all these different formats, and it's not all the same. So it'd be nice to have it all, either SDI or the good quality stuff instead of some coax and some HDMI and some whatever else. But okay, so a name of an actual camera that I should be looking at then? Any idea?
I'm no help with this one, sorry.
We went with an Avipas. AVIPAS is the brand that we have. They are all over the map in terms of cost.
Okay. And that's one that you can fix on a wall and
it's got 10-time optical zoom, 5-time digital zoom. It's got 3G SDI and a LAN output. You can get them with HDMI output if you'd rather do that. Support power over Ethernet if your network is set up that way. I felt like they have a lot of different entry levels for their price points.
Okay, great.
I know a church that uses the PTZ cameras for their live stream. They have one fixed for the whole stage, which is about 150 feet back from the front lip of the stage. And then we've also used the Canon, oh my goodness, what is that called? The Canon M50, that's what it was. That's worked out really well for capturing. And we've used GoPro for side shots, so it's required one person to kind of run the main camera, and then we've used a second camera for roaming shots of the band, worship team, and other angles to add in as well. And some of that has been mostly done in post-production. And so then we will show those services that have been recorded that way as premieres instead of live stream. But then with the premiere feature, we still engage in the same way as if it was a live stream.
Nice.
It's hard to say things like, we're glad you're here this morning when you're recording at night and it's dark outside.
Yeah. On this beautiful day.
Meanwhile, it's pouring rain outside or it's snowing and everyone's like, what? Anyone else have any other questions?
So I feel like we're in the dark ages. I feel like, you know, I'm old enough to remember dial tone phones, right? Radio phones, because we're just doing ours out of iPhones, guys. And
So,
like I said, our budget isn't. It's funny because I come from a company that had all this bells and whistles now, you know, and I have to work with very limited technology. So for the phones and any suggestions with that, you know, we do the best we can. The quality's not as great. Maybe somebody knows something else with how to get more clarity. And also our FM signals, they bounce in and out. The last 4 weeks was okay. Last week was, you know, was a hum through the whole service, and we didn't find out till later. So if anybody knows anything about that, you
As
know,
far as clarity, are we talking on your wanting clearer video or audio or both?
both.
Okay. What
Yeah.
iPhone model do you currently use? That's where we're going to
Yeah.
start for the video.
I think Pastor has a 12 or 11. Daryl?
Okay. Those should be
And
pretty.
then-
Those should be pretty good because they got the new ones now. I got it actually with me.
Yeah.
With the 3 different cameras, then this is the newest, like latest iPhone, and that actually records and broadcasts in full HD and everything. And then I hook my iRig right into the lightning port on the bottom, and then the other end of that goes right into my mix, standard output right off the mixer, and it puts everything how I hear it in the church is on my phone. And that's broadcast on right straight to my Facebook.
So Mike, preface the cheap option was saying you're going to spend some money, but there's a little device called Sling Studio.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a little white box, looks like a Wi-Fi router. It's $1,000. But you can connect up to, it creates its own Wi-Fi hotspot. You can connect up to 10 cell phone cameras to the device and wirelessly stream their video back into this device, which then you control with an iPad. So you can have all 10 of your video signals and you can just mix and you can change angles with a drag and drop feature. You can also connect $12,000 cameras if you want. It has these little wireless boxes that you buy that will make any HDMI compatible camera connect to this system. It's wireless, which always makes people nervous, and rightfully so. But when you talk about clarity, are you trying to get like this wide angle shot to have the whole front of your church on one picture? Is that what your problem is? Because I would agree, an iPhone 11 should give you a clear picture.
Yeah, and a combination of wide pastor's message and a little bit of the worship team.
Okay.
Not so much them, but in the beginning, and then focusing back on the pastor.
Yeah. So the thing that I like about Sling Studio is it has an HDMI input, so you can plug your computer right into it, and you can output whatever your presentation software is right as another screen. So you can drag and drop your projectors, your computer screen, your presentation media right to it. I'm thinking if you also had 2 or 3 cameras, then all of that's wiring back to the Sling Studio, so then you can seamlessly transition. You might be able to get a tighter picture on each of those, knowing that you can change angles without having to move cameras.
Okay.
So again, that's not $1,000, still $1,000, but that's about as entry level, I think, as you could get with some of what we're talking about. And it gives you the capability to move to multiple angles without having to buy any cameras, because you can use cell phones.
And when you're talking about the security aspect, obviously that's all built in. You can set.
So the Sling Studio creates its own Wi-Fi hotspot, and you would need the password to access it for a phone to connect to it. Is that what you're saying? Somebody coming rogue?
Yeah, right,
yep.
right.
Yep. And then your fail-safe obviously is whoever's sitting at your iPad controlling what's getting sent into the program. They can put something up or not put it up depending on what the image is. But yes, it's a password protected login.
All right. We use ProPresenter. Is that?
Yep. So you would just the HDMI output that feeds your monitor on your computers on your desk. You could just take it from the monitor and plug it right into this device, and it will send the output right in. I mean, I split it so I can see it on both, but yeah, it puts it right into the Sling Studio, and you have your screen as something you can drag and drop to your program and your computer screen. You can do picture in picture, so you can put your screen up in the corner with your band on the bottom left or whatever.
Okay. Oh, thanks. We'll look into that one. And for FM signaling, I mean, we actually went hardwire from, we feed it off of a standalone AV system. And then, you know, we had a problem with the ground, and we fed it back to our device right underneath the board, which is grounded. And it worked fine for about 4 weeks now. We're getting that hum back. So, you know, those.
Yeah, we have it plugged into the Furman under the audio board.
It's a Furman
power supply.
Yep.
What's your output? Is it XLR? Quarter inch?
Yes.
XLR. And you're using a shielded cable?
Shielded cables, right. Yeah.
Well, no, the output actually going to the transmitter is RCA, unfortunately.
Oh yeah, to the FM box.
Is the FM box, is your soundboard on a dedicated ground? Is it an orange outlet?
Yeah, it is.
Is your FM transmitter plugged into that same circuit?
You know, we didn't check that. Do you know?
Yeah, well, we're hoping so, because I have it plugged in underneath, you know, because our soundboard's in the box in the back of the church, and I ran the power cord because I have to put the transmitter out front of the church.
Can you try? I would try and make sure it's on the same circuit with this, especially if your soundboard has a dedicated ground. The other thing that I could think would be to try and run it through a direct box with a ground lift switch on it, and see if flipping the ground lift will take away some electrical buzz. Again, I would just try it.
Yeah, anything that help. I don't think we have the DI on it. That's a good.
But if you have one laying around, it's something you could try for free and hit the switch and see if it helps or not.
Good idea. Let me try that this weekend for sure. I get there extra early on Sunday, so give that a whirl. Thank you.
I know we're at 3 o'clock. Angela said she had one more question though.
It's a quick one, I hope. We use Easy Worship, and a number of the videos that we're running through Easy Worship, whether they're YouTube, well, they're mostly from YouTube and stuff, but they're just really soft. Any hints on how I can get the volume louder? And the problem that we're running is that it goes from Easy Worship. We've got an analog audio mixer right now, and the louder we make the video so that we can have it show up and that you can hear it on our live stream, we get a really bad hum going on in the fellowship hall or in the sanctuary. So we have to kind of compensate for that. So I'm trying to figure out if there's just a way to get my videos a little bit louder. I've done all the stuff on my computer that I know of. So I'm not sure if there's something else you can suggest.
Your sound runs from your computer to your board and then from your board to your live stream device?
Right.
Does your live stream device have a second audio input?
I don't know that.
I'm thinking if you could try to run from your computer output directly to the audio input and bypass or split it and run to the soundboard, but bypass your soundboard.
That might help. I will check that out.
Like I said, it's 3 o'clock. Want to respect your time. Said it would be an hour. If anybody has any other questions, though, you are welcome to email them to either myself or to the main worship email. I appreciate everybody who's been on this call, and we can all acknowledge the fact that this is really hard. This is not as it's supposed to be. As all of us and every member of all of our congregations show up to a church building or a parking lot or their recliners on Sunday morning, we can name it up front that this is really hard. So I appreciate all of you and the effort and your expertise, and just the very fact that we all are doing what we're doing and continuing to serve God's church and to serve God in these unprecedented. I hate that word this year. It's like the worst word ever, but it is what it is. So anyway, I'm grateful for all of you. If you guys have any follow-up questions, you are welcome to shoot me an email.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here. Have a good rest of the day, everybody.
Guys, thanks for the information.
See you
God bless
guys.
you guys.
Thank you.
Bye.